Hello, everyone. How's my voice sound today? Robotic? Like Dr. Robotnik or no? Emma, I'm pressing the record button. I feel bad for everyone who gets here early and just has to listen to me clear my throat a bunch of times as I get mentally prepared for this. Oh. How many Keenan Online members are in here? Someone just said they signed up. Yeah, Emma cut Miha's hair and I cut my own hair. And you can see who did a better job.
Well, Emma's took her like 45 minutes.
Attention to detail. What's up, everyone? I'm stumbling over my words because I haven't spoken all day. Does that happen to you if you don't use your mouth all day and you just sort of are sitting there and then you try and speak, it just doesn't work properly?
Sometimes,
The deconstruction of De La Riva X. Today we're doing open guard techniques. So we'll be taking questions from the Legion members if they have any. Then we'll be taking questions from the Keenan Online members, and then we'll get to you guys in the YouTube chat. I'll still respond to you guys, but as far as actually demonstrating the technique, no guarantees unless you're a Legion or Keenan Online member. And remember, for the Keenan Online members that are in the chat, to make sure that I see your message, go to KeenanOnline.com. There's a little chat bubble that pops up in the bottom right, and just type your question there, and we'll see it right here on the screen and be able to get to you. High-level sleeve attacks, that's a good one.
yeah, we have two people that asked the same question.
Cool.
Collar sleeve.
That's what we can start with. Oh, and 3, Amir Malik, too, asked for collar sleeve. So we'll start with collar sleeve guard today. Is everyone ready? Do we have their question ready?
This
is a different one.
Yeah.
Where was the other one?
This one, right here. It's pretty simple.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
can just
Yeah.
follow it.
All right, guys, let's begin. Thanks, everyone, for coming to my class. Let's bow. Us. Drop some us's in the chat, please, to pay tribute to me and Miha. Respect is important, even in an online medium like this. Is this out of the camera view? All right, guys, we're going to focus on jiu-jitsu today. We're going to improve ourselves in mind and in body with this technique. Let us begin. We're going to first talk about collar and sleeve guard. Before I get into the actual grips, let me just give you a little bit of a background of what collar and sleeve guard is. Collar and sleeve is one of the easiest grips to set up when you're in a scrambly situation. When you're trying to recover guard, collar sleeve is a very reliable grip to go to before you go to set up any of your other open guards. Now, open guard can be a very challenging aspect of jiu-jitsu because it requires a lot of accurate movements with your legs and hips. Okay, you have to be accurately placing your feet in the right position. You have to be utilizing all 4 limbs in unison to accomplish a goal, usually an off balance, a sweep, or a submission. But there can be situations where you can't, hey, de-escalate yourself over there. You got to de-escalate your music a little. We can hear your music.
You can hear my music?
Yeah. I'm surprised you can hear anything after playing it that loud.
Even better now.
Yeah. All right, that's better.
Sorry, I just wanted to stab you when you did that.
It's not even bad. It's like
It's the most demeaning way you can tell someone to be quiet. Hey, de-escalate yourself. It's like, The less finger movement you can give, the more demeaning it is. Tony. Put your gi on, bro. We're starting class. Put your gi on. Let's go. All right. Sorry about that little gesture. Sidetracking. My bad. Okay. Let's go back to business here. What was I saying? Oh yeah, how you need to be able to transition between guards, okay? When you're gonna play any sort of guard, it's very important that you understand it is not a be-all, end-all thing. You can't just play one guard. You have to at least have 2 or 3 backups. I talk about this a lot in the layers of guard idea, which needs to be reshot as well. The layers of guard and also the up, down, left, right passing philosophy, they kind of go hand in hand, one representing guard, one representing passing. It's sort of a yin-yang thing. What were you going to say, Miho?
There's a sick layers of guard blog article on Keenan Online now.
Right. Where can I go to find that?
Just Keenan Online blog.
Yeah, Cristiano worked with me to create a great article. If you guys don't know, the Keenan Online blog is actually incredible. You should definitely go check it out if you just need some reading. I've noticed, especially lately, sorry for getting sidetracked, but this is just how we do it here. I've been noticing lately, I've been absorbing a lot of information through video, but I feel like it's sometimes harder to really like maintain it, you know, like really commit it to memory. But when you read something, it seems like it sticks more. And I think when you have like a platform like we do where there's so much video, it's important to kind of balance that out with some text as well. And Cristiano does an amazing job of sort of transitioning the ideas from me speaking them into a text format, which is a sometimes faster and easier way for people to learn, because a lot of people can read faster than someone can talk. So if that's for you, make sure to check out the blog section on Keenan Online. All right, so we're going to get into collar sleeve, but let me just talk a little bit about the fundamentals of open guard and how this works, okay? And open guard can be an especially intimidating area of jiu-jitsu for people that are not super, they don't have a lot of dexterity in their hips and legs. But that doesn't have to be the case. You can play open guard effectively if you know how to use grips. And that's the key distinction between a good guard player and a great guard player. Is a good guard player may rely on a lot of his natural flexibility or his reaction time or his ability to get like invert effectively. But a great open guard player knows how to transition between grips to deal with the opponent's counters, all right? So the less you rely on your physical attributes and the more you rely on your gripping knowledge and knowing how to transition between guards and grips to maintain your effective control, the better you will be at playing open guard, all right? So an open guard constitutes any sort of guard where my legs are not closed or there is no closed loop around him. I would call worm guard when any sort of lapel guard that is fully locked up a closed guard, because he has to open the lock to be able to pass. You can't just instantly pass. Closed guard is a closed guard. Obviously, he has to open up the closed guard. We can demonstrate this for people who don't know. Like for instance, closed guard, he is not going to be able to pass my guard until my legs open. And now it is an open guard and he can pass, right? Half guard is kind of the same thing. If I have half guard, I would consider this a closed guard. He has to free his leg completely out of the closed guard, and now I would be playing open guard again. Worm guard is kind of the same thing. If I have a worm guard set up effectively here like this, and he wants to try and pass, he's going to have to break my grip because it'll be pretty difficult for him to just immediately pass. Even just sit-up guard with the lapel I would consider a closed guard, because he can't actually pass this guard either until he actually deals with the closed loop here by freeing his leg or somehow just smashing through it completely. So there's closed guards, and those are the guards you're trying to get to. You always want to get to a closed guard. Open guard is transitional, it's flowing, but it is more vulnerable to passing. So if you can have a really effective closed guard, you are less likely to get submitted, to get passed, or deal with any sort of difficulties that you would normally face from an open guard. So closed guard is where you want to be. It's difficult and it takes a lot of skill to be able to be effective from closed guards as far as submissions and sweeps and things like that. Open guard, you can mess up a little bit more because people aren't as effective at taking advantage of the open guard, but you do need to know both. I don't suggest picking one or the other. I always preach, don't specify. Like, don't be a specialist in one particular position. Try and learn as much as you can, because it's better to have a wide variety of tools than one really sharp tool, right? And sure, people who have one really sharp tool that they're super good with can use that in a lot of different areas, but the guy who has more tools doesn't have to work as hard, and because he always has the right tool for the job. So that's kind of how open guard and guard works, right? So then it comes down to grips. So there's a lot of different grips in open guard. When I am in my open guard here, the last thing I want to do is not have grips. It is a very bad idea to be here and not prioritize grips. If I'm just chilling like this, waiting for him to do something, the second he creates an opening, I no longer can be gripping because I have to be pushing. And if I'm pushing to create space to get back to my open guard, I'm losing because obviously I can't push him into a submission. The more I push, the less danger he's in. And this is why the up-down, left-right philosophy works so effectively, because once you get them to push once, you just move back in the opposite direction, do another pass, and then they have to continue pushing, and you're just behind for the entire game. So your number one priority when you're in open guard is to secure grips with your hands, okay? And that can be anything. And remember, it's like an additive process. If I just get one grip, this is better than no grips. I'm not gonna stay here. I'm gonna use this grip to climb up him and get closer to the grips that I want. In this case, I'm going to be trying to get to collar sleeve. So even if I can only grab the belt or the lapel or the pants, whatever grip you get that grip, but then have the intention of trying to get to the better control. Don't just be happy with that one grip. I have to be transient in my grips and I have to adapt to the new situation. So maybe I'd get the pants grip and use that to secure a De La Riva. Then if I can't reach anything, I might go to the belt. The belt would pull him closer down to me, and then I could get a collar grip and a sleeve grip, and now I would be in collar sleeve. If I just immediately try and go to collar sleeve and he knows that I want to go to collar sleeve, he's just going to break this grip over and over again, and every time that I reach and he breaks, I'm in this sort of limbo where he can just start passing immediately, and then I'm back to pushing and recovering and trying to not get past, and then he is not in danger in that situation. So whatever grip you can get, when you're playing open guard, it's usually a good idea to put your feet on the hips and then put your feet on either side of whatever grip you have. So if I have a pants grip, I want my feet on either side of the grip. This provides me with a little bit of control if he starts throwing my legs. If I put both of my feet to the one side of the grip here, this is where you're in danger, because if he opens my legs up this way, this grip becomes useless. But if I have one leg on the outside of the grip and one leg on the inside of the grip, and he tries to throw one or the other to either side, at least I have a little bit of control with that free leg. So I'm not like putting all my legs in one basket for him to just toss to either side. So whichever grip you have, this concept applies. One foot on either side. Oh, lost the lapel grip, how embarrassing. One foot on either side. Same thing with the sleeve. If I have the sleeve, one foot on either side. Usually matching up with his knees, hips, shoulders, or elbows is what I'm looking for. And then I'm looking for my secondary grip. And you might be familiar with a lot of the different guards that you can use, but they usually involve one high grip and one low grip. So like a grip on the collar and a grip on the pants, a grip on the sleeve, a grip on the collar, a grip on the sleeve, a grip on the pants, a grip on the lapel, a grip on the pants. So there's usually like a gripping sequence that is like diagonal, and then one up, one low, usually is what you're looking for. It's pretty unlikely that you ever see someone grabbing two grips low or two grips middle or two grips high. If I grab two grips on the collar, this is not a very effective guard, right? He has his arms completely free, his legs are completely free. It just doesn't really work that effectively. He has a lot of movement. But by staggering your grips, by like grabbing at the ankle and at the sleeve, here, you can be a lot more effective, because whichever way he goes, his balance gets thrown off in the opposite direction. So it allows you to control him forward, back, left, and right by taking opposite grips. But if I were to double up on grips, so both my grips are low, he has complete control of pressure, his posture, his arms. This is not going to be effective, all right? Now there are situations where you can have two higher control grips like spider guard, but that only works because you're using all four limbs on two of his limbs. So then it's a numbers game. I just outnumber him in the limb control realm. So by having spider guard, I have two high grips, but I'm still creating a little bit of an offset, because you don't play spider guard like this. This would be really ineffective. But I can create that stagger by extending one leg and pulling the other leg in and creating a nice hook here like this. And then if he moves to one side or the other, I can switch that and maintain my control here and here. But it's important to remember, I can't just stick to these one grips, right? Once I secure an effective guard, he's going to break these guards. He's going to work his way through the layers of my guard. So if he breaks my spider guard and my feet come off, I have to transition to something else, right? I lost the spider guard. I have to transition to another method of control, maybe collar sleeve here. And then if he steps over my right leg, maybe here, like this, my collar sleeve is starting to break apart. I can't commit to these grips. I have to do something else, right? Here, the proper option would probably be to go to a lasso. Throw the lasso in. Because I was exposed to this side, I can use that lasso grip to reset and control. Maybe he weaves his hand out of the lasso and I have to transition to De La Riva. He would break this grip here. Maybe I'd go to the pants to start attacking Berimbolo. Maybe, and then if he steps over this leg here, he starts squatting down and I lose my De La Riva hook. Well, from this position, I could go to like impossible sweep, crab guard. I could even off balance here, use it to enter into single leg X, and now I'm in single leg X guard. From here, he would do the proper action, push my leg, then I'd have to transition into X guard, right? Maybe he back steps out of this here. Now I'm in trouble, and this is where you have to start looking for more half guard, single leg coming up, and those are the lower layers on your layers of defenses. So essentially open guard is like keeping space and control, and he's just going to work to break down that space and control until you get to the closest layers of guard, which is like half guard, deep half, things like that. Because once you get into deep half, smash half, things like that, if he passes, I don't have anywhere else to go. I'm stuck between him and the mat, literally. He's sandwiched me between the mat. He passes my guard. I have no space to transition or do anything else. But if he's really far away from me, like a spider, if he breaks that grip, there's still a lot of space and a lot of room for me to transition into other guards, okay? So now, without trying to tie all those things together, because that's what we do on KeenOnline.com, I'm going to show you just some specific attacks that I really like from collar sleeve, all right? Does anyone have any objections to that?
I do. I just need to tuck this lapel into my...
Okay. Oh yes, and someone asked here, what about De La Riva and spider? Well, that's a whole different realm, and it kind of plays into the same layers of guard system. There are hybrid guards, right? You could go lasso spider, you could go De La Riva lasso, you could go spider half, you can go half butterfly. These are all hybrid guards, and they just fit in between the different layers as transient positions that you can use to transition to one or the other of the hybrids. So if you have a lasso spider and he breaks the spider side, well, then you're just in lasso. But if you have lasso spider and he breaks the lasso side, then maybe you could just set up spider. It's just like a quick, easy transition between the two guards that make up your guard. And most good guard players, you'll see they have one main guard that they like to play, and I would call that just their primary guard that they like. But you'll always see they have backup guards and different grips that they like to use. And you don't need that many. You don't need to know all of them. Like 3 or 4 could probably get the job done, but the more you know, the more options you have. Again, it's just like the toolbox analogy. You can have a lot of tools, so you know you have the right tool for the job, but maybe you're not as skilled with each of those tools. Or you could have 2 or 3 tools that you're really good at, and maybe they're not perfect for the situation, but you make them work because that's what you're good at, right? So I'm going to show you some of the stuff I like from collar sleeve. There's one thing in particular that I really like to do, and I want to start with that. So Miha, could you come stand over here? So I always just like to assume that I had no grips starting and I have to secure my grips. One grip I like to set up all of my grips from to make sure that I can get to a safe guard without getting passed right away is if I reach for his sleeves, he can just pull the hand away. If I reach for his collar, he can break my grip. If I get the belt, that's good too, but this can come undone kind of. It has a lot of slack in it and can become loose. I like to just grab right over the top of the belt. This is a surprisingly powerful grip because if I get this right away, even if he goes to pass my guard to one side or the other, I have this stiff arm to really keep his body away from my body. So he can't ever actually close the distance to get his hips to me. Like even if I'm like here, if I have a good stiff arm, I'll have about 2 to 3 feet of space to get my legs back in and probably have a chance to recover. Especially if he goes this way. If he goes to pass this way, having this hand in the hip like this leaves you in a really good spot to recover. because it doesn't leave you open for arm bars or flying triangles. If I had the collar and was trying to do that, and he goes to this side or the other side, this arm is fully extended. He could easily take advantage of that. But
Some exotic violence.
some exotic violence, yeah. If I have a middle grip though, right in his hips, it keeps that arm safe. So it's a great first grip to start with, and then I use that to pull myself into him, and at the same time, I'm using it as an off balance as well. So I'm not just pulling myself into him, I'm actually like pulling myself into him, like really throwing my weight into it to create an off balance. And then from there, I'll set up my grips. And you kind of have your pick of whatever grip you want. If you pulled off the off balance effectively, he'll be close enough to you, you can grab the pants, collar, sleeves, lapel, belt, whatever you want, just because of this nice little off balance. You can grab this, pull yourself into him here, and now I can just pick what I want my second grip to be. I'm gonna choose sleeve. I secure that grip first before letting go of the belt, because I don't want to let go of both and then go to the sleeve, because that would be a waste. Keep the grip, secure it, then get your second grip, and now we're in collar sleeve, all right? Now, just like any guard, the main goal is to be looking for off balances, and with collar sleeve, you're afforded a lot of off balance opportunities, mainly with your right foot. I want my left foot to be stuck on his hip and transitioning from his hip to lasso. My left foot is basically only going hip to lasso. If you're a little more advanced, it can go to shin to shin as well. So you go hip, lasso, shin to shin, depending on his reactions. And the right foot is just going shoulder, knee. Shoulder or armpit, it kind of moves between these two spots, shoulder, armpit, or knee here. So what situations would I use each of those 5 different foot configurations? So there's 5 different places I'm going to put my foot. The thigh, the shoulder or bicep, the lasso, the hip, or the shin to shin, okay? So the first one, the only reason I would go to lasso, try and get into like a good posture here, yeah, just like this. The only reason I would go to lasso, if he starts passing to this side effectively, and this leg is not being used. Once he breaks this foot off of its position, I would throw the lasso and use that to recover, right? Turn this way for me. Once I recover, I'm just gonna go back to my primary guard position. Now, if he drops to this knee here, like this, and he's connecting his elbow into his knee to defend against a lot of my attacks, this was a situation where I can't really put my foot on his hip. The lasso would be pretty ineffective. So my only other option is to go shin to shin. And you can do that by going over the top, or you can do it by just tucking your foot here. And by going shin to shin with a grip on the shoulder with my right foot, I can extend and use that as a setup to shoot my attacks, whether it's a triangle, an omoplata, or some sort of other attack that you like. So if he drops to one knee, shin to shin is a really good option. Now if he's standing up super straight, if he's standing up super straight, this is where I just keep it right in his hip and use that to break his body in half to break his posture. So again, you have to be comfortable with playing your feet in these different configurations depending on what he does, okay? If he has good posture and he's just working to pass in maybe a normal position, he kind of drops his hips and has a good fighting stance here, this is where I want my right foot to be looking for off balances constantly. If I have a solid, secure grip on the left side, my right foot is always looking for off balances to shoot triangles, right? Collar sleeve is all about the leg attacks to his head, right? So if I'm here tracking on the elbow and the shoulder and I see an opportunity to off balance, remember most off balances result in a nice hand plant. That's a perfect setup to shoot triangles. Most people who are very good at triangles, if you've ever wondered why you can't just throw on a triangle really easily, you really need to be looking for off balances that force your opponent to go out of these tight, safe elbows in positions, and they start extending their arms out to either side. That's when you can catch people, okay? So yes, there's a lot of individual positions from collar sleeve, but this is actually everything that's going on. It's sort of the fundamental movements that you use in collar sleeve. Your foot is either shin to shin, hip, or lassoed, and then the right foot is either thigh or shoulder. And most of your attacks will come from these positions here. The other thing that you want to try and focus on is turning to the hip to the side you have the most control. So if I have a lot of good control on the left side, I'm going to turn my hip to make sure that I keep those controls. Because by turning my hip, I have more extension and I can create more of an off balance by stretching his lower body away from his upper body here. And he's going to be trying to counter that by trying to square up with me and get his hips back in so that I have to switch back to a different style of guard to deal with his different counters, right? And then when he closes distance, that's when I'm starting to look for my off balances again, my shin to shins, and try and break down his posture and positioning to deal with the different blocks that he's putting in place. Right? Does that make sense to everyone? Now, there's a lot of cool submissions you can do from collar sleeve, but you can really get by with just a couple submissions. You can do triangle omoplata from there, and that's all you really need. You really only need like five main submissions. If you can do a good bow and arrow, a good kimura, a good armbar, a good triangle, and a good omoplata, that's all you need. Like, you can submit everyone with just those things because there's so many setups for those basic submissions. I could show you a lot of different submissions that you can do, different arm locks and different setups you can do, which are more advanced. But I think it's better to focus on the fundamentals of the guard position itself by worrying about feet position and hip position, and then just using a basic submission and not trying to overload your plate with doing a bunch of different moves when you don't really have the fundamentals down yet. Someone said that they're having difficulty with the layers of guard. I really suggest you go check out that article I shouted out earlier on the Keenan Online blog, Layers of Guard. All right.
This gentleman here asked about the Brambolo, which we did yesterday.
He missed it.
I'll tell him where to find it. But this question is pretty good for like a competitive setting. I know you normally don't double guard pull, but
yeah, we'll have to talk about that a different day though, because we're going to keep going open guard.
Competition day.
Yeah.
Next week.
Is the grip on the sleeve a bit harder on the hands versus the collar? Yeah, usually sleeve grips beat up your fingers a little bit more than collar grips. Lapel grip is the easiest for sure. All right, I have more I can show here, Miho. So that's mainly against someone who's trying to stay standing against you, but collar sleeve can be super effective against a seated opponent as well, but the positioning changes a little bit. So depending on what posture your opponent's in, you have to change what you're doing to like continue attacking optimally. So if Miha gets on his knees, come on this side, Miha. If Miha has one knee up or both knees down, it doesn't really matter. Collar sleeve changes a little bit, but collar sleeve just beats the crap out of two knees on the ground. It's just so effective against it. If he keeps both knees on the mat, he's going to get triangled because the main triangle defense is being able to put your knee up and block. And if they put their knee up, the shin to shin counters it so well that it's just a perfect setup. I really suggest most people invest in learning how to play collar sleeve guard because it's so dynamic. It's not the best defensively, but it's just a really good all-around attacking defensive guard and a great spot to just start building your open guard out of. And sets up a lot of, it's basically, you can set up any guard from collar sleeve, whether it's worm, squid, spider, any sort of open guard or even any closed guard. It's a great spot to be. Well, let's talk a little bit about how to deal with someone who's on their knees like this. Now, when someone's on their knees, I'm not trying to break his posture or off balance him, and that's how the game changes here. Because when he drops to the knees like this, it's because he's trying to avoid those off balances. It's a way to just get low to the ground so that if his center of gravity is lower, of course it'll be much harder to off balance. But he's sacrificing a lot of his mobility and a lot of his ability to create to manage distance because he's stuck in this one spot. And I can take advantage of that by just changing my posture. If I'm flat on my back, I don't have a lot of mobility, and that is going to hold me back. So I need to get into a position where I have more mobility, and the way to do that is to sit up myself. So if I have collar sleeve and someone drops to their knees like this, I'm not going to stay on my back because I can't break his posture. I can't off balance effectively. So how do I deal with the situation? Well, the good thing is he's not going anywhere, so you can actually let go of the sleeve a little more frivolously because you're going to get it back. Because as I sit up here, he's going to be putting his hands somewhere on my pants, and I'll just be able to get that sleeve grip again. All right? And now when someone's on their knees like this, my main goal is to just constantly be separating his elbow from his ribs. I always want to be trying to get this off his ribs and extended. If I can extend this arm, all the attacks become apparent and available here, okay? So you can do this in a number of ways. The best way and the simplest way is just to kind of treat it how you would from a standing position where he's on his knees here like this. I get the collar and I just put my foot on this knee here, the opposite to the collar grip. So I'll have my foot in the hip still, I'll have this foot on the knee, and I just extend that away. And now that's not going to create an off balance, but it's going to turn his body so that if he keeps trying to bring his elbow in like this, I might not be able to pull it completely if I'm not stronger than him, but him resisting here and his body being at this angle makes it very easy to turn this into arm drag scenarios like this, or even an actual arm drag like this, all just because he dropped to his knees and I turned his body a little bit. Whereas if he's square with me and I try and arm drag from here, it's not as effective. He can just bring that other arm across, he's facing me still, but the second I start incorporating pushing his knee out and him trying to pull his elbow in, that makes it very easy to pull his body aside and start attacking other positions. The other thing that's a really good tip to continue attacking from when someone's on their knees is just putting your hand really deep in the collar. This is like old school style guard. Putting a deep collar grip is super effective because normal collar and sleeve is really just a pulling motion. You don't really use it to push as much. But if you're close enough to him and he's down on the ground like this, you can get a really deep grip. And I can still push and I can still pull, but I also can control the direction he's facing by using my forearm on his neck to point him in the direction I want. So even if you can't secure a good grip here and maybe he just is doing whatever with his hands, I can't get it. If I have a really deep collar grip, I can still create this one off balance. This is like the one off balance option you have from here, other than just like straight up kicking him over backwards. Bringing him out this way is a really effective way to off balance. And if I have the sleeve grip with it, I'm pretty safe from getting passed as well, because he can't just pass me from here. Because all passes that start on the knees, usually they require pressure. Most of them. I can't really think of any pass where he's just gonna like blitz around my guard from his knees. He has to start putting pressure in like over-under positions or like Sao Paulo style pass positions. And I don't have to worry about that if I have a really good collar grip, because if he tries to get close to me here, he can't, because I just have the stiff arm. And then the other thing is I have his wrist as well. And I can kind of play some mind games here where if he wants to hold his elbow tight and not let me pull, then I can pin it and push it here and make him feel weird about having his hand there. Because if it's pinned to his chest, it's not really doing much if it's pinned to his chest here. And I can use that to my advantage by starting off balancing. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna make him realize, well, wait, I can't just keep pulling my elbow in if it's creating these opportunities for him to take my back. So he's gonna start reaching with it to get us a grip on the collar. So I can't do that, because once he grabs on the collar here, I'm not gonna be able to use my arm drag anymore, because he's finally secured a grip. But the arm's extended. And remember we said our whole goal is to get his elbow away from his ribs. So by attacking in a different direction, you can accomplish the original goal just by threatening what he left open for himself, right? He left it open, we take advantage of the opening, and then for him to deal with that opening that he just created for us, he has to put himself into another vulnerable position. And when this arm gets extended like this, now it's okay to go to your back, because I can get my knee behind his elbow here. So if he tries to tuck his elbow in again, it hits my knee. And so he's kind of stuck between this decision like, oh, do I keep the collar so I don't get arm dragged, or do I want to get my elbow back to my knee or to my ribs so that I don't get triangled? Because as long as he leaves his elbow away from his ribs, it's very easy for me to just start being sneaky with this foot. And he could be trying to block it, and I just bring my leg on the inside. He can block it by keeping his hand here like this. And if that's the case, I can just go right over the hand. And then while he's worried about my foot doing snaky things over here, I can also set up the omoplata. So you have double attacks in almost every position. And taking advantage of one thing, when he defends it, it will leave him open for another. And that's kind of the principle of all open guard, is knowing how to not just focus on one thing, but like see how he's defending your position, and then take advantage of what that defense leaves him open for. Does that make sense? This is a good question right here from, is this Shinigami?
I think that's Ilya in the chat, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
He can confirm or deny.
There's a Kino Online member here that is asking a little bit about being ahead in tempo while you're in sit-up guard. How to be attacking and not just wait for what the passing player will do. It's a very good question. And Lucas, if you're planning on watching this tomorrow, don't count on it, because this is a one-time opportunity. After the stream is done, we archive it, and it's on Kino Online only. So don't miss out. All right, we're going to talk about this question here. How to stay ahead in tempo. Now, tempo is a chess concept, and it really, in jiu-jitsu, it really just comes down to who's pushing to defend and who's pulling. If you're pulling, meaning you have a grip and you're pulling it into you, chances are you have tempo, because it means you have the dominant grips and you are pulling your opponent into something. If you don't have a grip and you're just pushing to try and recover or get away from something, that means you're losing. And is this true? Some live streams on Kino Online weren't available. Oh, you know why? Because I think I made some of them private instead of unlisted.
I fixed it.
Okay.
They're available again.
Okay, that's my bad. All right, so let me just demonstrate tempo here a little bit. So I could have my really strong collar sleeve, let's say, like this. If I'm pulling, I'm winning, right? He has to pull away from me. He has to create space. He's trying to push my legs off of his feet, right? Or off of his hips. If he's trying to push my legs here, that's him pushing, right? He's pushing to try and deal with the threat. And at this point, now I'm the one who has to think, oh wait, my grips aren't really doing as much for me. What should I do? Well, if I do nothing, I can't get my legs back. He's gonna start to pass. And as he starts to pass, my guard is quickly going sour, and I have to change what I'm doing to start pushing, right? This means that Miha has regained tempo, and I am the one who is behind in tempo. And that means that he is just one step ahead of me. And every time I do a push to recover, I don't have grips, but he does, and he can do a second attack. And I have to push to recover, and as I do that, he can do another attack. And you can get stuck behind in the attacks, okay? So the person who attacks more and more has more opportunity to attack. So that's why being aggressive in grappling is really effective, because it's very difficult to mess up. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's actually very easy to mess up in grappling, but as you get better, you're less and less likely to mess up. So being aggressive doesn't leave you open for things. It actually just creates openings and actually can keep you safer, because if your opponent is pushing because you're being aggressive and maintaining the battle for tempo, he's pushing and not worried about submitting you, so you actually are just not in danger. It would kind of be like the equivalent of just like throwing a flurry of punches at someone and them covering up and not being able to get a clear shot back because they're just overwhelmed. It doesn't really apply the same in striking, because being overly aggressive in striking does leave you open in some situations. But in jiu-jitsu, it's usually beneficial to be the aggressive grappler, okay? So the question specifically is tempo from seated guard. And now, seated guard is really good to maintain tempo. It's just hard to recover it. So if I can get to a seated guard position where I have the attacking grips, that's good, because it's very hard for him to regain tempo and start making me push again. And the reason for that is most sit-up guards require some sort of around the leg grip and then securing something like this, maybe the belt or another sleeve like this. These positions are very powerful because he has to break the grip, because it's technically a closed guard. If I have him in closed guard, like a full closed guard, he doesn't have tempo until he escapes my closed guard. And this is the same. This is a closed guard, and a closed guard is just a position where he doesn't really have an option until he breaks the grip. If he breaks the grip, now he can attack or he can not attack. If whoever attacks next gets tempo, basically. If I immediately come up on a single leg, I'm the one who won the battle for tempo, and I can just continue attacking. He's pushing to recover, and I just continue attacking until I win. If he breaks that grip and then immediately uses that split second of time where I'm searching for another grip, if he immediately uses it to try and pass, or doing some sort of passing attack, before I can recover a grip or come up on another attack, I'm the one who lost the battle for tempo, and he's winning, right? So from a sit-up guard position, to make sure you secure tempo and keep it, you need to get a really solid grip, which is, I would suggest the lapel. Getting a lapel from a sit-up guard position is actually very powerful, because you can maintain tempo. Give me a little extra lapel slack here. You can maintain tempo with the lapel grip pretty easily, because if he starts trying to pass my guard, all I have to do is just try and keep this lapel between his legs. like this. So as he tries to engage to try and pass me, keeping my head down and the lapel between his legs, you can create a pretty effective wall that's very difficult for him to get through. And if he overcommits to either side, you can pass the grip to your hand and get a secure position here. All right, come back over here. So a lapel grip can be pretty effective. The belt grip I talked about earlier can be pretty effective because you can use that to pull him into you and off balance and get to a wrap around his leg. You can use your sit-up guard to pull him into single leg X, where here I do have tempo because I have the ability to off balance and do different attacks here as well. But I think your best bet from sit-up guard is to just look for a cross lapel here. If he tries to pull away, use that to try and come up into lapel wrestling positions. And if he tries to engage, keep your head down, put the lapel between his legs, and use that to set up your grips, okay? And if you're playing sit-up guard and you're constantly are getting knee cut, and you find yourself getting stuck here all the time, make sure to be using shin to shin. So as I use sit-up guard, if I know that people are good at knee cutting me, I just put a shin to shin. Whenever they try and knee cut now, I can redirect that pressure and use it as off balances to come up and attack different things. All right? And then it looks like you followed up your question with, would single leg X be a closed or open guard? It's kind of in between, but I would say it's more of a closed guard because he has to clear the foot off your hip before he can continue. He doesn't really have any other option than clearing the foot off the hip. That foot on the hip is kind of the grip that he has to break. Someone has a good question here. Can you give some details on why the shallow lasso is good for open guard retention? For sure. We kind of went over it already, but I'll just recap a little. Shyam, I've seen you ask quite a few times now, what is the Peruvian necktie? We're doing open guard today, so I would suggest you just search online for the Peruvian necktie. And if you're looking for a really high quality instructional on the Peruvian necktie, we have one on our website, KeenOnline.com. All right, is this another question?
No,
Okay.
it's not related to open guard.
So someone asked about the shallow lasso, and what is a shallow lasso? Well, first we have to know what a normal lasso is, and a normal lasso is just a grip, an open guard grip. Well, actually lasso could be considered a closed guard, but it's kind of in between as well. This is the lasso. It's where I bring my leg around I'm using a grip on his sleeve to lock it under my armpit, and then I turn into the lock this way, so it kind of brings his body down in an uncomfortable position, and it gives me an opportunity to grip in the opposite side of his body. Because remember we talked about how you want these staggered grips for the open guard. This is a lasso grip. But there are positions when you're playing other guards where as he breaks down the position, it's a good idea to throw on what's called a shallow lasso, which is where you just cross your foot in front of his forearm, like this. That's really all you're doing, is just throwing your foot in front of his arm. And now this is done when you have sleeve grips, any sort of sleeve grip or collar sleeve or double sleeve, anything like this, and he starts moving around a lot. He starts throwing your legs. This is the opportunity to just throw a shallow lasso in, like this. Just throwing a little extra hook over his wrist. It doesn't have to be super secure, but it just puts something in his way. As he starts moving around sporadically trying to pass, I just throw a little shallow lasso, and it just gives him something to deal with. And if he continues moving in that direction, I can use that to recover. Whereas if I don't do that and he starts moving this way and I don't use a shallow lasso, he can just continue moving around my body. So there's a lot of guard recovery movements, but one of the simplest is really just having a sleeve control and just throwing your ankle up over. And this just helps create space. If he's putting a lot of pressure and my legs are down on the ground, sometimes my only option is just to throw a little hook here like this. If I don't throw this hook or I'm not flexible enough, he's gonna pass. But if I have a little bit of flexibility, or even just I'm fast with my shrimping, I can use that to throw my hook in, and if he continues trying to pass now, I have this lasso to help me recover. He's stuck for a second, and I can regain tempo with that one recovery movement. Can shallow lasso be on the shoulder? Absolutely. It doesn't have to be on the wrist. That's a good point. You can put it on the shoulder, more extended. Shallow meaning it's just not through his arm. It doesn't actually matter where it is on the arm. And yeah, shin to shin when you're being knee cut is the best thing to deal with knee cuts. It's a very good habit to learn how to use shin to shin to help alleviate pressure from knee cuts. Can you convert reverse della worm sweeps to regular reverse della hiva for no-gi? Absolutely not. Having the lapel is the thing that makes worm guard work. You can kind of do like a worm guard type movement if you have really strong wrist control in no-gi, but it's not really reliable. This is a very good question from Chris Fagan. Chris Fagan is a good friend of mine. He's a wine, is it sommelier? Is that how you say it? A wine, like the wine specialist, sommelier? Mm-hmm. He's a master of wine.
I think this is also him.
Oh yeah, it is. Did he ask the same question?
No, the one that we said we're going to answer on next week.
Oh, okay. Well, he has a good question about open guard over here. Mm-hmm. He said, can you touch on the best way to strategically use inversions to recover and retain open guards? It's a fantastic question. And it's something that most people don't even think about asking because inversions have this sort of stigma like you got to be flexible or you got to like know what you're doing in a specific way. You got to be one of those fancy guard players to use inversions, and that's just not true. And no one's ever asked me this question before, so I'm going to have to like kind of articulate it in a good way. So I'll do my best. So go ahead and stand up for me, Miha. Now, inversions, from a recovery standpoint, are sort of like your last line of defense. You have two options when someone is breaking through your layers of guard. As they get closer and closer to pinning you between the mats and their chest, you can either go to the lower layers of guard, like half guard or deep half, or you can use an inversion to kind of reset the position and get back to a more open guard. So people who have long legs, who like to play open guard, or not even long legs, but they just have flexible hips and they like to play open guard, usually they rather would invert than go to half guard, because half guard is more of a stockier, tight game. Traditionally, obviously that's not always the case, but people who are more into open guards usually like to invert because they're not as good at half guard. I know I'm like that, for example. I don't really like to play half guard. I'd rather try and invert and redirect his pressure and then eventually get back to an open guard. So I'll show you what that looks like. So let's say we're going through the layers of guard again. We'll just start from collar sleeve because that's been the theme of the day. I'm here, collar sleeve, like this. See, he steps over my leg with this hand, steps over. I will go to lasso. From here, I'd throw in my lasso to recover my guard. He weaves his hand out, and I'm left like so. Now from this position, maybe he can Toreando to this side. Here, as he Toreandos here like this, I have two options, right? We talked about this a couple days ago. When someone's about to pass your guard, you can either turn in or you can turn out. If I turn in here, I'm not going to be able to invert because if I try and curl my legs in, he's just going to push them away and I'm going to get stuck. So most of the time, people who invert don't turn in. They turn away because as I turn away, I can use my hand to create space here, and this is the moment where I choose to either invert or not. If I create space here, I could just try and jump away and recover, but that's pretty hard to do because he's going to be chasing me. So when I create the space, my next option is just to block him with my butt, right? So I have this arm in the way, but I know he's going to compress that because I'm not strong enough to keep him away with just one arm. So I roll to my shoulder and I put my butt in the way like this. So my arm post was replaced with my butt, and then I can open my legs up and recover again. Let's do it from this angle. So it's when you're about to get past, and this can be done even from like a seated scenario if he moves this way. Here, I'm about to get past, I have to create space, but if I can't turn back in, because maybe he's blocking my leg so I can't turn back in, he's gonna compress me, but if I wait too long, he's just gonna pass, and now I won't be able to invert. So there's a moment where I replace this block with my butt, and that's what an inversion does. It's using your butt to block and redirect his pressure. It kind of turns you into a little ball. So whichever way he goes, here, as he tries to pass, I'm inverting, and it lets you kind of reset and throw your leg back in front. That's the basics of how it works, but depending on how good the person is at passing, a lot of times they can recognize that as a recovery option and land you in even worse positions. So let's say I try something like this. Let's say Miha goes for a leg drag,
on this side, yeah. Leg drag here. He's got my leg. I can't turn in, my leg is pinned, but I can create space and I can invert. But when I invert, he kind of puts pressure like this, and I'm stuck on my shoulders here. But he has a good control over my thigh like this. My other arm is pinned behind his arm. What can I do here? Well, I have to be continuing to try and finish my invert, but if he's pinning me, I can get stuck. And if he brings the arm across like this, he might stop my invert midway, okay? So in situations like that, you're not just doing a simple inversion and then recovering. You have to commit to it a little bit more. So in a situation like this here, I might have to invert completely so that he doesn't have an opportunity to pin my legs, and I have to do a full spin. All right, so if you ever feel like you're in a situation, so even if it's not a leg drag, if I'm here and I go to block with my butt, but he puts pressure with his knee and sticks me like this is where I don't want to be, because now he can pull this leg across. There's a lot of different attacks he can do if you get caught mid-inversion. So if you know that you might not be able to recover, and this just happens through years of practice and recognizing when things are going your way and when things aren't. I'll be in a position here like this where he passes and I feel that I'm going to get stuck. I will just invert completely, putting my feet on his hips or his chest, and as he tries to put pressure to beat my original inversion, I can just spin all the way through and recover. Okay? So there's kind of two levels to the inversion. One where it's just a little half thing where you're just blocking him with your butt and opening your leg up and over. So it gives him like a new guard to pass. And then the type where if you try that, you get pinned. So the only thing you can do is go all the way through and face him again. And so whatever grips he may have, if you do a full inversion, it usually breaks those grips or whatever pass he was trying. And it's kind of like hitting the reset button. So if you're good at it, you can use it to get out of a lot of sticky situations that otherwise someone might get past if they're not flexible. So inverting is very important, and that's why you got to stretch your neck a lot in jiu-jitsu. We're doing a lot of backwards rolls and things like that, because people will force you to invert too. And if you're not comfortable in that area, you're going to get smushed, and it's going to be very uncomfortable if you don't have the flexibility. Do you have any tips on not getting stacked after the initial inversion? Yeah, I think I answered that by kind of just rolling all the way through can break down the ability to super stack you. Oh, these are some really great graphics here.
This is for the end. We can just
Okay.
mirror the schedule for next week.
Yeah. Does that expose your feet to toe holds? No, because inversions also counter toe holds. If someone tries to toe hold you from a standing position, I can just demonstrate this real fast since we're here. So if Miha ever tries to toe hold me like this, I counter it by inverting. See? So let's do it. Let's face this way so they see my foot. So say I'm here, he tries to toe hold me. If I do nothing or I turn this way, my foot's going to break. But as he tries to rip my foot around this way, I spin, and look what happens to my foot. And you beat it. So if I'm trying to recover, he passes my guard to this side here, and I go for an inversion. If he tries to grab my toe, I just continue the inversion, and I'd be out. Yeah, if you have a bad back, you got to stay away from inversions, but you should probably make sure you have good mobility in your spine, because you can really pull some muscles and damage your back if you're not flexible there.
Do a lot of cat cows. That's the best thing you can do.
I don't know what those are, but I'm assuming it's a yoga thing.
These ones.
Yeah, but also it's like someone's weight is on you too. So you're stacked on your neck with their weight on top of you, and then you're resisting against that. It's just a recipe for disaster if you don't really have a lot of mobility there. So try and avoid it if you're not, if it doesn't feel comfortable for you, but it's definitely something to work on if you're uncomfortable there. Take a few more questions.
What's Keymaster guard?
I think that's a video game reference. I don't think it's a real guard, but it could be with all the names out there today. Other than using the lapel, do you prefer controlling the upper body or lower body with open guards? I play a very dynamic open guard game. When I don't have the lapel, I play a little bit of everything. I play a lot of closed guards, I play a lot of open guards, high, low. I just like to work through all the positions. When I'm playing open guard, my main goal is just to like refresh my brain with all the different positions I can be in. So I don't really focus on one. The key master guard counter knee slice, yeah, I'm not sure what that is. It's probably something to do with throwing your leg in front of the hips. There's a few good open guard counters to knee cuts. He's probably named it after one of those.
I think that's a pretty good question. How do you decide between sweeping and wrestling it up in open guard?
That is a good question, and it really just depends on your constitution. Are you feeling tough? You better wrestle. If you're feeling more passive, play more on your back. But there's a time and place for everything, and it's just about recognizing if their balance is off in a certain direction. Like, usually the best time to wrestle is when you don't have grips maybe, and he puts himself out of position, you don't have grips. If you already have grips and you're in a strong position in open guard, you're gonna be flat on your back anyways. It's gonna be hard to go from flat on your back to vertical standing, driving in. Usually wrestling opens up a little bit more when you only have one grip and it's kind of uncertain and your other hand is free to just jump on them. But both are effective. You could never play guard in your life. Like, you could sit on your butt and just only wrestle with people and you would be fine. You could just have that game. You don't, like, guard is optional. Like, you won't win very much, but you could do it. It's possible. Near side collar sleeve or far side? Always near side. The only time I use a far side collar grip is when I'm setting up Flavio Conto chokes. Like, with this far side collar grip, it's the perfect opportunity to lock up those grips. But for a collar sleeve, it's just not as good because it keeps him square to me by having the far side grip, where having the near side grips lets you turn him, and that just breaks his posture and his ability to stand up straight and use his strength. Jack Neary, we already spent an hour addressing all the different grips from open guard. We're actually about to finish here in a second, so we're just kind of closing up shop. What's the best time to go for pancake retention? Pancake retention after they break our frames? Yeah, pancake is like a really good thing you can do. If someone's passing your guard, and this is what I do, like, because I turn away a lot, it tends to be that when someone's about to pass me, I turn away and I try and like hook their leg. And then when I hook their leg with my baby hooks, they put pressure like this. And then from here, I'm not passed yet because I'm like on my side and I can usually reach to the pancake guard. And getting this sleeve can get you out of a lot of bad side smash positions. And this can be done even if that doesn't happen. Like, say I wanted to do it the inversion I was doing earlier, where let's say you pass to this side. You pass to this side and I want to go for my inversion, but maybe he grabs like a horse collar grip on my neck and I can't invert and he sticks me as I try and invert. And I get stuck here, this is the perfect opportunity to go for pancake. Because now, no matter which side he passes to, as long as I keep this hand away from his other hand, he can't take my back. Because for him to actually secure hooks, he has to secure a seatbelt grip, and you can use the pancake to recover and escape. There's a lot more to it than that, but it seemed like you already knew about pancake guard, so I wanted to show you a little bit about that. Address being armbarred from that inversion. It's pretty difficult to get armbarred there. You're just creating space for a second, and then the space, like, I'm not staying here. I'm literally just framing and then immediately replacing with my butt. You'd have to leave your arm fully extended. Just tuck your elbow, and they're not going to be able to armbar you from there.
Plus, it gives people the illusion that they're still going to pass your guard, so the attacker doesn't want to throw themselves into an armbar.
Right. We have some pancake guard breakdowns on KeenanOnline.com. Some new ones, actually. We refilmed some of the old concepts a little whiles ago. Off topic, but what was the name of the back take of Kainen's you went over yesterday? It was the Barum Slow. Barum Slowlo? Something like that. Something about a Berimbolo that's slow. You never heard of pancake guard until today. Pancake guard is Jimmy Harbison's creation. He's an old friend of mine from way back when. Very talented black belt. And that was one of his tricks that he passed on to me. And I keep it alive. You see Leandro do the opposite collar grip a lot. That's because Leandro doesn't really use it to attack. He's mainly using it to either stand up or pull into a single leg these days. He doesn't really play as much guard. Using a far side collar grip can be effective to help set up like lapel drags and collar drags to get to a single leg. But if you're trying to play guard with your legs and go for triangles and omoplata sweeps, you want to have the near side grip. Hugh Roth, I think I just explained that, but I could clarify as well. Open guard good for leg lock setups? Yeah, you can do anything from open guard. That's why people like it. It's just, you have so many opportunities to go for all sorts of stuff. Dealing with headquarters passing, that's a good question. Usually trying to elevate and put them into a single leg X guard, or potentially playing around with crab guard could do it. I'll just show this. This will be the last one I show here. So I believe headquarters position is what we talked about a little bit earlier. It's where they just step over your leg and they start to compress you. I usually like to get a nice deep collar grip here and then just bring my knee across their body like this, but make sure to carry their weight on my elbow. If you just post straight like this, he can move his weight down over your hip and side smash you, and this isn't gonna help. But if you tuck your elbow low on his chest and let someone kind of smush you here, you're gonna be okay. And then what you can do is get under your own leg and use this to elevate and set up your crab guard here. If you missed yesterday's stream, we went over all the crab guard attacks. Not all of them, but a lot of the different options you have from crab guard, which are a lot of fun and great against side smashes. Just a little crab guard seminar for you. Oh, and the other one is using that same idea to elevate to single leg X. So someone starts to smush you, you get their leg, create a good stiff arm, off balance, and bring the leg underneath is a good way to deal with it as well. And then also pancake guard. If someone's really smushing you, just transition to pancake. Keep his hand away from his other hand so he can't clasp his hands for a seatbelt. And from here, if he tries to pass this way, you just recover, no problem. So he has to pass towards your back. And when he passes towards your back, if he can't throw the seatbelt on, it's pretty easy to turn in and redirect that pressure because he can't ever connect, so he's just like stuck. So yeah, guys, that was our class for today. If any of those particular techniques caught your fancy and we didn't have a lot of time to go into detail on it, you can always find the full instructionals on KeenanOnline.com. And going forward on Monday, we're going to be covering a specific type of open guard, lasso guard, where I'll be teaching actual specific techniques from there, not just the concepts. Then Tuesday, we're doing no-gi Kimura traps. Wednesday, Street Jiu-Jitsu Volume 4. Thursday, 5 p.m., all the streams will be at 5 p.m. now. Thursday, we're doing competition style strategy and different techniques that are kind of exclusive to competition. And then Friday, in the gi, escaping and recovering positions. So make sure to be back here every day at 5. I believe we're going to train now. I think Tony's ready. He's suited up. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for coming. Let's bow it out. Great job. You all make me very proud. There was a lot of good questions today. No stupid questions today, so that was a nice reprieve. All right. Us. Make sure you us in the chat, guys. We'll turn on our lo-fi beats and just train for the next 45 minutes to an hour. All right? Yeah. Yes, please.
5 p.m. Pacific time.
up, Emma? Let's go. Everybody's rolling today. Come on. Keep still impressed. Keep looking. I'm impressed. I'm scared. There's like, he's missing. You see what he did to the field?
Huh?
He's missing like a pad.
Yeah.
I feel like I did that part. He was sleeping.
Dude, I literally, one time I went into a Brooklyn barbershop and by mistake, I didn't know if it's like rundown or hipster. They charged me $100 for a fucking haircut. And this is better. Like this is better. I swear.
Ready? How long do you want it? That's what I said, not copyright. You can check for me. I just pressed play on whatever was on there.
Yeah, first time I've ever seen him play a guard. Get under the leg. Lift that leg up and over your head. So you gotta clear that leg.
Attack!
guys have a timer?
Yeah, 6 minutes.
Okay. Time! Yeah. It starts quiet and it gets louder. Who's that? Tony? You wanna go next? Me and you?
Huh?
Me and you?
Whatever you want.
Let's do it. I'm gonna put my timer on. Dang, bro, when'd you break your phone?
When I asked you for that guy's number.
Oh, yeah. Just an ad. All right. You got those first round gulps. Does that ever happen? Huh? First round gulps?
I pushed it and I worked out too.
Yeah.
I'm warm.
You're super warm? Let's do it.
Okay, guys. Well, they do the fighty fight. I'll do the talky talk here. Play by play. Keenan pulled guard in a really odd way, and he's gonna immediately. Keenan just said, "What are you doing?" Antonio said, "Ankle lock," and he's like, "Don't do it." And he's like, "Why?" And Keenan said, "Because it hurts." The entire time we were doing the stream, Tony was lifting hard over there in the weight area. So he's warm, but potentially more tired than we are. Cameron, I don't know, I just kind of mixed them up, so I wear different pants with different tops a little bit. Also, I have really huge, powerful legs, so some of the pants are kind of tight, so they limit my mobility, so I only wear certain ones. I did meet Oliguedes before. Yeah, he's a cool guy. No, I'm not getting any stripes on my brown belt. I've never gotten a stripe in my life and I don't want it. Don't tell this to any white belts, but stripes are just a ploy to not get people to quit because their egos hurt. They don't mean anything. Especially if you get them for attendance, like do 10 classes and you get a stripe. That's ridiculous. In my opinion, my personal opinion. And no, we're not gonna be putting on the streams on YouTube. Sometimes we leave them on for a couple of hours, but we won't be putting them back on because first of all, it takes quite a bit of time, energy, resources for us to get here and do this. We tried to make it free for anyone that can attend, but for just $25 a month, you can watch all of them on Keenan Online all the time, plus everything else. So we think that's pretty reasonable. That's why we keep them here when they're live and maybe for a little bit longer, but we can't actually afford to leave them on YouTube. Because if you watch the whole stream, the amount of information in here is crazy. I agree, Cameron, yeah. Tintin. He, honestly, these roles here against Keenan, I tried to survive. Against Tony, I tried to not look like the guy that only survives. So currently, I'm not actively working on something pursuing. Like against Keenan, that's not a good idea because you're just gonna get effed up. Against Tony, it's kind of the same. If I don't give it my best, I'm also just gonna get messed up. Yeah, the other timer. Time. Here's the secret why Tony looks super strong. It's because he is.
Ankle lock his ass. Tony looks like a Fast and Furious character. That's funny. all I can. Huh? Rápido y Furioso. Someone actually say great guard Tony. April 1st was a couple days ago. So that's late for an April Fool's joke. Yang, I have a fan that's sick. I'm gonna tell my mom about you. Yeah, Mia is humble. He is a badass. Tintin, all I can do is lift weights, man. They have so much knowledge. I gotta have some sort of strength. That's a good idea from De La Hiva. Just sometimes I try to kind of stay on my back a little bit against these guys and do more safe stuff because I feel like if I sit up, it's just an easier pass for them. But work in progress, man. I got a lot of guard work to do. A lot. Ooh, almost with the ankle pick. Got it. Alan, my ping pong game doesn't need any assistance, as you know, from the ass whooping that I gave you. Hey Nick, we're quarantined together, so that comment's kind of erroneous, pointless. But I miss all my ping pong buddies. Yes, it was. I think I fasted way too long today. This caffeine is making me feel like I'm on crack. Terrible ref. Yes, I actually did have a bang, and it's a wee bit much. All that organic hemp caffeine. Hey Chris, whatever you gotta do to stay sane during these times, man. Respect that. I need to get up. Ay, Diosito mío. Let me have 20 seconds. Five,
Alright, we have a leg drag situation here. Tony's holding on to the pants. Yeah, maybe you can see it. Trying to get his knees back, and it seems to be working. He probably needs to get the left knee up higher. See how Keenan defeated that right there. So if Keenan's hips get closer to Tony's hips here, he's done. He still has that grip though, which is kind of saving him, preventing Keenan from going left-right. And now he lost it. It was probably not gonna work. It was just like it's gonna prolong the pass. Keenan's gonna try to slide his hips forward here, touches the left side of his hip to Tony's, or jump over. I see a question in there from one of the regulars here, Chris. What makes Keenan so tough to roll with? Well, first of all, he's been doing jiu-jitsu for like 15 years. That's one thing. Second of all, he's top 3, top 5 in the world. But you all know that, so it's just like he's extremely good at capitalizing on your mistakes, and especially at getting to the back. If you saw that previous round, I was doing good at the start, and then eventually it always ended up in either a back choke or some kind of choke. So the answer, long story short, is multiple things altogether. See a question in there. Could worm guard be used as a last line of defense? Well, yeah, but it's hard to set up, and it shouldn't be a defensive movement, because if you get worm guard, if you close it, you're in an incredibly overpowered position, so there's no need to defend from there. You attack from there. And it's not like you're gonna have your guard almost passed and then you're gonna get worm guard. That never happens really, unless you're rolling with someone that sucks. So yeah, technically, if you were losing and you ended up in worm guard, then you could use it as a line of defense, but it becomes offensive, so it's not really defense anymore, if that makes sense. Yeah, I dabble in lapel guards, but I'm not gonna pull lapel guard on Keenan. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 9 years and 10 months. And my favorite lapel guard, is reverse double worm, obviously because it's the strongest. And then I also got the Polish worm rider in competitions a few times. But yeah, just general worm to reverse double worm. I'll play squid too. I try to learn, basically. I'm still there. I'm trying to learn it. Get the whole system. Nice sweep there. We've got 8 seconds left in this round, so this is probably gonna be it. Tony's not gonna tap to crossface or anything. Time. I'm really bad at gubber guard. I never really play it, so I can't really answer. Potentially, maybe.
Hey Yang, Miha's hair is kept fresh thanks to Emma, the one and only Slovenian barber. Dang, I feel like my heart's gonna explode. I have no favorite guard at the moment, but something just like the options from De La Riva or D-Path, I guess, because the other ones are very detailed. I'm not there yet. I do like squid, but I think I need to learn everything else first.
got that fresh energy coming. Ed.
That's it, boys. Thanks for coming, everyone. We may roll a little bit more, but we're going to end the stream. Thanks for being here. Everyone have a good day. See you next time.